If you clicked play on this episode because you saw the word benefit and regret next to each other, claiming that there are somehow benefits of regret, that seems like an oxymoron, especially because the mantra of some people's life is, I live my life with no regrets, no regrets. I don't regret anything I do. The reality and the truth is, and anyone that's ever said that knows, it's not possible to not have regrets. We can bury regret and we can try to not focus on the things that we do regret, but there really is always going to be regret in our lives and decisions that we wish we wouldn't have made. But the beautiful thing is we can actually benefit when we go down the road and when we get honest with ourselves and say, like, you know what, I actually did regret that, but let me take a look at why and what I can learn from it. So there's 5 benefits of regret that we're going to go over today. Rich is going to take us through them.
Yeah, it's not that regret's a sucky feeling. It really is. If you start to regret something, you don't feel good, right?
Yeah.
So that's not what I'm leaning into, but I'm a proponent that even in the most negative things of life, it can work for your benefit.
Right.
So instead of regret, you being a slave to regret, you turn it around and you make regret your slave.
Yeah.
And you bring out the best. So there's 5 things. Number 1, I'm going to start with, I think a benefit of regret is it causes introspection.
Mm-hmm.
And introspection is very healthy because we move at such a fast pace in life. Sometimes we don't even stop to know why we feel the way we feel.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're regretting something, there's an emotion behind that. What is that? You want to identify that through introspection. So you can sit down, take some moments and say, here's what I'm feeling. And it feels like regret. And I think this is why. So it's a process of going deeper into your own emotional feelings and getting honest. And so it brings out things. It's introspection. I'm going inside of myself. It's not just external issues that have created the problem. It is internal.
You're inspecting you.
Yes.
You're to see what's wrong. So an example I thought of while you're talking is, say I yell at my wife and I really didn't want to, and I regret it immediately. She's upset. And the regret simply is like, I wish I would not have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I can go further and say, why do I wish I wouldn't have done that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why am I regretting that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm regretting it because it created an outcome that I really didn't want to have. And it's not the outcome I was desiring.
Mm-hmm.
So regret is actually, it's a good test. It's a good
Mm-hmm.
radar. It's a good alarm letting you know, like, hey, that thing didn't yield you your desired outcome. Therefore, don't repeat it. But people who go through their life saying, I'm going to live my life with no regrets, no regrets. I have no regrets. Everything I do is on purpose. I don't regret anything. They're kicking themselves, not even knowing it. They're beating themselves up because what they're saying is, I'm ignoring all of the things that I'm personally doing to cause negative outcomes in my life. I'm doing them and I'm not even acknowledging them. So it's a chaotic life because you're like, well, what's causing all these problems in my life? And they're not willing to look at the fact that it's the regret of their own choices. Introspection.
Looking in. Second one is this, creates reflection. Sounds similar, but it's different. I'm going to look inward first, and I'm going to identify, what is that? Feels like regret. Then I'm going to reflect upon it. Reflect means you're actually going to think about that moment. You know, some of the things that I have actually regretted in my life, 5 years later, I go back and I don't regret it.
Interesting.
Go figure, right? Because I took time to reflect on it. And when I took time to reflect on it, I realized, wait a minute, I regretted something that, I regretted like getting really, really honest with someone. And that's sometimes hard for me, because I don't like conflict. But then 5 years down the road, I realized in reflection, that was a good thing. And so now when I'm confronted with that issue again, I can pull out the regret part and go, I regretted that all those years, but actually it was a good thing.
Yeah.
Now, on the same case, you might reflect and go,
No, it really was bad.
I think next time I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that one.
But either way, you've gained very, very valuable knowledge.
Yes.
And very, very valuable like information about how to
Right.
not repeat the regretted decision.
And you're dealing with the emotion, because remember, it regrets this emotion that sticks with you. Now you're going, no, I brought it up. I've brought it up and I dealt with it. I went inside, I dealt with it, I reflected on it, and can I go to number 3?
Go for
Because it jumps right into it. Now, once I've gone inward and looked inside and I've reflected over it, now it can affect my direction. Meaning I can set a new course.
Yes.
All right.
True. You were going one way. You hit something you didn't like. So you're like, I'm not going to keep bouncing into that thing. Let me turn slightly and go in a new direction.
How many? I mean, I've coached hundreds of people, right? But one of the things that I've discovered is some people have said to me over and over again, I regret that.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 years later, they're regretting the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
repeated.
Yeah, it's repeated. So it kind of stops that continual flow by going, okay, where do I want to go? What can I learn from my regret?
Yeah.
What if, I regretted going into this line of work, or I regretted this relationship. Okay, so where do you want to go in the future? Well, go back to that regret, which like you said, we don't want to feel it. We don't want to deal with it. But if we do, introspection, reflection, then it can determine where I want to go. It can affect my direction if I deal with my regret. And I'm not talking about hanging on to it, living with it. I'm not like, don't let it be your slave, but use all negative things in your life to project you forward.
Regret is not necessarily only to be applied to something you wish you would not have done, but it's also often applied to something you did not do that you wish you would have done. So regret can also show you, hey, I wish I would have started that bakery when I was 20. However, you don't have to actually regret it. You can start the bakery now that you're 40. Yeah. You can look at regret both in the negative and say you can learn from the bad things you don't want to do and don't repeat them, but you can also look at the things you wish you would have done that you didn't and actually start working towards them.
And I can almost guarantee this. If you're listening saying there's something I regret, you right now need to plan what you're going to do differently. You can literally set a new course, a new direction based upon your allowing the regret to come up. We've just brought it up for you.
You're talking future regret. Like I know I'm going to regret going to that party this weekend.
Exactly.
I know I'm going to regret saying yes to that overtime shift and sacrificing my weekend. I know I'm going to regret it. People say that all the time. I know I'm going to regret that. Well, stop it right now and don't do it. Change the direction before you regret it.
Exactly.
Regret seems to be future, present, and past tense.
Yeah.
What's number 4?
Yeah, number 4. We're going to use regret to minimize perfection. Let me say this, perfectionism. All right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to do things right. But oftentimes, here's what happens is if we regret something, we don't want to try things again because we think we'll make a mistake.
Yeah. We think we weren't perfect the first time. So what's the point?
Why would I get it right this time?
Yeah. Wow. That's wild. So regret, oftentimes people when they're looking at something and they regret the failure of it. So they're not wanting to ever try that thing again. Maybe I started a photography business and I didn't hit the goals I wanted to hit. So I really regret doing that because it was a waste of time. It was discouraging and I'm not going to go back to it. But what if you take that regret and you apply it and say, well, wait a minute, that photography business, there were things I really liked about it. And then there were things I didn't like about it. What if you hone in on the things you did like about it and say, how can I make those things better? How can I book more of the jobs I did like and not the jobs I didn't like?
Mhm.
And you can actually use regret to help you
Mhm.
push some things aside and not. But you don't have to be perfect to proceed. You don't have to be perfect to move forward. But oftentimes perfectionism, because you weren't perfect, you regret doing it.
Oftentimes, the pain of regret is actually greater than the pain of the failure.
Huh.
So when we live in that regret and say, I'm not going to try it again because I might fail or I might not be perfect, keeps us from moving forward. So I think if we can face our regret and go, yeah, let's move forward, it minimizes perfectionism. All right.
Number 5.
Number 5, it zeroes in on your projection. And we talked a little bit of that about direction, but I want to bring it back again because regret, if you zero in on it, using it, introspection, reflection, direction, perfection, now you can go, I want to project. Projection is projecting forwardly. I'm projecting out. I'm projecting into the future what I want, who I want to be with, what line of work, what business, what lifestyle do I want. When there is regret that we just stay in, we usually stay limited. But when we project into, I don't want to live in regret.
Yeah.
I don't want to live there. So I'm going to project my future out. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's almost like, so the projection related to regret is saying, I don't want to do the things that I did regret, and I do want to do the things that I regret not doing, that
Yes.
I wish I would have done.
Yes.
And so the projection, it's similar to direction. Direction is a continual, like, okay, I hit that roadblock, I regretted that, not going that way anymore. But the projection is like not the minuscule minor things. It's where do I want to end up?
Yes.
What's that goal? Do I want that bakery? Do I want that photography business? Do I want that relationship with children in that house, and et cetera? Projection is focused on that. And you can learn from your regret the whole way through. And you can actually minimize regret. The better you get at regretting, the less you actually have to regret.
Yeah. And it's like you can bring that up. You can bring that emotion up of regret to project.
Yep.
You can do it. You can actually bring that emotion up, especially when you get tired or lazy or weary. You just go, no, I'm going to bring up the emotion of regret because
I actually use that a lot. Like my brother David, when he used to work at a home improvement store called Menards, similar to Lowe's and Home Depot here in the Midwest, he regrets working there, and he uses that as fuel to project himself to never have to work something like that again. He's like, I do not like that circumstance. You just told me the other day, he's producing the episode right now. He's got his headphones on, but he just told me the other day, he's like, I actually like thinking about how much I hated working there at Menards because it helps me stay motivated to do good at what I'm doing now so I don't have to go back.
Yeah.
It's genius. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So if you don't like thinking about regret, if you don't like introspection, you don't like changing your direction, you all the things we just talked about, if you don't want to deal with it, you just want to set it off to the side, put a cozy blanket on, watch TV and forget about it. If you don't start regretting, I can guarantee you'll regret it. And with that, we thank you so much for watching this episode of 5 Ideas. We hope and we know that you learned something valuable, and we're coming at you as best we can every single week with these episodes and even more great resources for you. Coach Rich Clay is available. You can check out the link in the description. You can sign up for a free call with him to see if coaching is for you to take your life even further. We've got a book called iTunes, which is out. You can check it out in the description below as well. Thank you so much for watching 5 Ideas, and we'll see you in the next episode.